This is a $1,400 gaming PC, and despite it being 2026 and it arguably being one of the absolute worst years you can build a gaming PC, it can still be done. Now, obviously, this is not going to be a PC build guide that is going to be easy to replicate because I did have to do some deal hunting to find a lot of these parts in this PC. So this is just kind of a template to show you what I did in order to find these good deals and how to keep the price low to where it's almost identical to what the pricing was like a couple months ago before all the prices skyrocketed and parts have quadrupled in price. So this is a great template that we're gonna be going over today. Not only does it look really cool, but it performs really, really well as well. And for just this price, you can still game really well in 1440p on high settings. So we're gonna go ahead and get straight into the parts list. Now, unlike traditional parts list where you go through each individual part, we're gonna be going over the combo that I mainly paid for, which makes up a lot of this entire build here that you see. And that's going to be the CPU, motherboard, RAM, and AIO. I got all four of these for about $475. Actually, this whole combo went down to $450 right after I bought it as well. So you could have gotten this for even a little bit cheaper, but the whole makeup of this combo is the Ryzen 5 9600X. That's like one of the main pieces in this combo here. And it's a great 6-core 12-thread processor that is obviously the newest 9000 series from Ryzen. It's definitely my go-to CPU that I recommend for most people when they're looking for a mid-range build with even a slightly higher end graphics card. It pairs nicely with pretty much anything you can pair with it. And of course, the price is really, really hard to beat. On average, you can find these for about $200, sometimes on Newegg down to like $190 with a free cooler. And we're also gonna be talking about that cooler now, which is the MSI 240mm AIO. I think it's some kind of like mag liquid or something like that. I don't know the exact name, but this is just a free AIO that got included with this bundle, and it cools the Ryzen 5 just fine. It's ARGB, and it pairs nicely with our MSI motherboard, which is also included in this bundle. This is the MSI B850 Gaming Plus Wi-Fi. This is a really solid board that normally runs about $210 on sale on Newegg. It has a 12+2+1 phase power design, which is really, really solid for the price. Not only does it look good with nice cooling and VRM heat sinks and all that good stuff on the board, it has plenty of ports on the rear I/O and a lot of hookups on the actual board itself. Obviously has 4 RAM slots and 2 8-pins for the CPU, so if you're pushing out a 9800X3D or anything like that on this board, although it is a B850, it can still support those nice higher end CPUs, up to Ryzen 7s I'd say. And with our Ryzen 5, it's gonna do just fine with that. It is a nice looking board, and for the price in this combo, you really cannot complain. The last piece to this combo is the 16 gigabytes of Team Group T-Force Delta RGB RAM. This is DDR5 6000 megahertz at CL30. Now, although that is good cache latency and good looks as well, a nice brand from Team Group, it is only 16 gigabytes, and that is the only, I'd say, pitfall in this combo that I paid for it. I'm still not complaining for the price that I paid for it, but it is unfortunately not 32 gigabytes, which would have been really nice in this economy. But again, I'm not gonna complain. I got this combo for a really, really good price. 16 gigs is honestly just fine for most games out there. If you're only gaming, if you are streaming and doing more than just your typical gaming, it may start stretching out a little thin with only 16 gigabytes, but it is a good starting point. And if you're looking to get into PC gaming without spending the $400 on RGB RAM right now, it's not a bad option to consider one of these combos like here. And you'll see in the benchmarks later that even in most games, we weren't even really utilizing all those 16 gigs. So it's good enough headroom for now, and I'm not too worried about it. But to round out all those parts, just to remind you guys, we paid around $470 for all those things. Considering your motherboard is $200, your CPU is $200, and AIO would run $80, and then however much RAM would cost, you're saving a couple $100 all in on this combo. And that is really, really helpful, especially right now with how expensive certain things are. For storage, we went with the 1TB ADATA Legend Gen 4 NVMe. I picked this one up on Newegg as well for about $112. It was on a pretty good discount. Normally, those are gonna be running around $140 right now. Unfortunately, $140 to $150 is gonna be the average price for what you're gonna see these NVMe's going on sale for. But there are still discounts and deals on 1TB and even 2TB NVMe SSDs that pop up for around $100. I post a lot of those deals in our Discord server, discord.gg/ToastyBros. So check that out if you want some deals on storage, power supplies, things like that. I post them all day. But not a bad option for a pretty fast Gen 4 NVMe SSD, $112. Again, I can't complain given the fact that a lot of these are going up in averaging a lot higher than that price. Now, next up, we have a 750 watt Roswell VSB 80 plus bronze semi-modular unit. This isn't necessarily a crazy deal. This is kind of the average price that it goes for, but on Amazon, you can usually find these for around $59.99, which is actually really solid. It's usually the same price as their 650 watt version, and might as well get the extra 100 watts, especially if you're pairing up a nice card like the 5070 in this PC here. 750 watts is, I'd say, what I would recommend for a 5070 build, which we'll talk about in a second. Really, really good unit. It's a C tier on the SPL tier list, so it's a decently rated unit. Really good price, good wattage, and we've used about 100 of these now with no issues or complaints. And I really do like the fact that it comes with the ATX 3.1 connector pre-installed into the unit. Saves a bit on cable management, and the actual cables themselves do have a nice look to them, which we are obviously going to be talking about the sleeve cables that I put in here, which was kind of a fail, to be honest. The sleeve cables that I chose with were the Asia Horse black and white mixed sleeve cables. Now, the downside to it is that I got so caught up on getting the color scheme down, I completely forgot that the 5070 that I bought for this build has an ATX 3.1 connector. So, complete fail by me. It happens whenever you're trying to plan out all the colors and trying to envision the build in your head. You kind of just forget some things sometimes, and this is one of those rare occasions where I did forget it. But it still looks pretty decent. You can't really see the sleeve cables on the CPU, but I do have them hooked up there. And of course, you can see the motherboard there. Downside is they don't have a sleeve cable for this one right here. So that is something I could have added on if I wanted to, but in retrospect, I would have just bought a maybe blue sleeve cable kit to just kind of tie them all together so you can see this one here. Kind of a downside here, I did spend $32 on this, which was purely aesthetic, no performance gain whatsoever, but it was just a bit of an extra, you know, add-on just in case I wanted to have some color scheme going on here. And I tried my best to match them up. I have blue on the fans and the line on this case, and then white on the RAM, and then white on the AIO block, which I actually controlled with Mystic Light on the MSI Center. And I'm just shocked to see that you can actually control each individual fan and the AIO block because it's an MSI board, MSI cooler, so kind of a cool touch that I didn't even really plan. But aside from the color scheme and all that stuff, kind of a fail on the sleeve cables. You don't have to do that on your own build if you don't want to. I like doing them because it's a nice aesthetic touch if you have the color scheme you have in mind, but it was $30, somewhat wasted because I didn't get to use all of them. Next up for the GPU, we have the RTX 5070. This one, a PNY model from Best Buy. I actually got it at MSRP, which is almost unheard of nowadays. Unfortunately, anything past like the 5060 Ti 8 gig, any model necessarily that has over 8 gigabytes of VRAM, it's pretty much all gone up in price because the VRAM shortage and the RAM shortage in general is affecting pretty much everything RAM related, which does include your GPU because it has VRAM inside of it. And the 5070 nowadays, you're probably gonna be finding them for around $600 to $650. Sometimes even more if you get a nicer model. But I did find this one on Best Buy for MSRP. One of the last few ones that I scored for that little deal there, if you call it that. And we definitely had to put this to good use. So that's where this one lies. Performance-wise, the 5070 is also going to be fantastic for 1440p medium-high settings. I think it is the absolute sweet spot for 1440p gaming right now in 2026, especially since the 5070 Ti is up to about $1,000, which is absolutely ludicrous. If you're going for something more high-end and you want a little more performance, I would suggest the 9070 XT because you can get that for around $750, and I'd say that's the next step up from the 5070 in terms of performance that I would look into. But if you can find the 5070 for around the $550 to $600 price point, really solid. And all of these components are inside of the Lee & Lee Vector V100 ARGB. Now this case is an absolute home run from Lee & Lee. Their V100 case and then the 011 Dynamic Mini V2 in black with no RGB fans is some of my favorite go-to cases right now, just for the fact that they have really good quality. This one's really, really good on the price as well. And it looks really cool too. I love the fact that they have this nice ARGB line on the bottom here, as well as 4 pre-installed ARGB fans. The 3 on the right side there are reverse blade, so they have air coming inside of the case, which has a nice airflow. You got an exhaust fan, and the fact that the ARGB is a big help too. You don't have to mess with any of their software, which I am not a big fan of because it is usually very headache-inducing and doesn't work half the time. So having nice ARGB hookups, nice design aesthetics, and a support for 360mm radiator, can't complain for $75, which is really, really good value. They also made a mini version of this case, which is about $10 cheaper for micro ATX options. If I got a micro ATX board, that would have been the case that I would have went with to save the extra money, but this combo came with an ATX board, and this was the best affordable case that I really like to use. But with all my prices inside of this PC, we ran about $1,304 as a subtotal and just under $1,400 after tax, which is really, really good. You could honestly say that this was a pre-2026 pricing PC, and I just wanted to show you guys that despite it being somewhat hard to replicate, if you do some deal hunting and you wait around for those combos online, you should still be able to build a somewhat well-priced PC in 2026 if you are looking to get into PC gaming. So aside from that though, that's enough yapping. We went ahead and ran a couple benchmarks to show you guys what the performance of this PC was like, and the results are pretty good. Starting off with the finals, which is one of the games that I've been loving recently. One of my friends got me back into the game, and it's actually pretty fun, so I recommend you guys play it too. At 1440p on high preset with no ray tracing, no frame gen, and no DLSS, we averaged around 160 FPS, going up to 180 sometimes and dipping down to 140, just depending on the area and what's going on the map. And that's pretty solid FPS on honestly. If you wanted to get more of a competitive level, you could always add on DLSS and have some help with the upscaling, which didn't really affect latency. I run the game with DLSS on my home PC and it runs just fine around 200 to 230 FPS. We did have RAM usage around 13.5 gigabytes if you were wondering about that 16 gigabytes of RAM, and no noticeable stutters as well. That kind of averaged at 13 gigs the whole time we were playing it, and you can kind of expect the same performance of Arc Raiders as these benchmarks because they are made by the same company. So with no extra help from the modern technology of frame gen and all that stuff, you're going to be getting around 150 FPS, which I think is pretty acceptable with a little more headroom if you wanted to use that new technology. Next up, we took it to Black Myth Wukong, and we did their built-in benchmark tool, which was a 1440p high preset with DLSS on, no frame gen, and we averaged 107 FPS with a max of 135 FPS and a low of 19. And I looked through the actual graph there, and there was one tiny stutter that brought us down to the low of 19. And it seemed like it just froze up for a quick second. I don't know if that was a benchmarking error or if it was the fact that we only had 16 gigabytes of RAM or just a weird nuance, but throughout the whole benchmark, we didn't really average anything lower than 90 FPS or sometimes 85. That one dip caused that low to get pretty low, but I'd say on average, you're gonna be around 90 to 100 FPS. Next up on CS2, we did a 1440p resolution like the last two and a medium preset, and we averaged around 556 FPS with the built-in benchmark on that one too. This one, I just wanted to show you what a esports game like Valorant, Fortnite, or CS would run like on this PC. Again, this is a Ryzen 5, it's modern hardware. You're not gonna have any real issues, especially when you're lowering those settings to take full advantage of the FPS and smoothness in these competitive titles. Lastly, we have Cyberpunk, and we tested this one as well in 1440p on a high preset with DLSS set to balanced, no ray tracing, and no frame gen. We averaged 170 FPS, 204 as a max, and then a minimum of 129 FPS. And that just kind of goes to show another one of those AAA titles that is a little harder to run on some of the budget hardware, but can still run really smoothly on the new stuff like this. And if I'm running a AAA title, that is definitely acceptable for me. And I think if you're in 2026 and trying to build a PC, doing a couple combos like what I did in this video and on this PC, and just saving a couple bucks and maybe going down to 16 gigabytes of RAM, you can still have a really good gaming experience in 1440p resolution on a PC like this and not spend over $1,500. I'm gonna leave a link in the description down below to a couple of the parts that I selected in this build. Just keep an eye out on those prices because there are a couple parts that are fluctuating in price a lot right now, with certain things going down even cheaper to their lowest prices ever, since PC building is kind of at a low point right now in terms of popularity. So you can still take advantage of these parts and deals. And like I said earlier in the video, if you want to check out some of the deals that I post daily, we have a Discord server, discord.gg/ToastyBros, where I post deals like I found in this video daily. So check out that Discord server. And if you don't want to build a PC at all, check out PCBros.tech, our PC selling business, where we sell PCs like this that look really good, perform really good, and are optimized for you whenever you get them home to your doorstep. Check out PC Bros today. Use that build consultation if you want a custom PC that you don't see on the website, and I will help you build it. So we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.